We have the 2019 World Champion team FPX, FunPlus Phoenix, up against T1, a many-time World Champion themselves. And they're going to be going head-to-head here on the Rift. It's going to be some pretty fun stuff, Ellis.
No, and I'm expecting that T1 are the favorites coming into this match. We're just going off of the finals and the playoffs of each respective regions. And just T1 looking so dominant also in their series. So the lineup today is going to feature Khan up in the top lane for FPX, with the rest of the roster not too much of a surprise.
Yeah, he really popped off in that third, fourth place match against IG up against the Shy in the top lane. We saw a little highlight of that during the pre-show from the LPL guys. Well, thank you once again to you guys for holding that down. Wish we could have you here, but the technical issues to get that all set up were a little bit too much to have it work. But we're going to be still bringing you the action here from Korea while having the teams here in the LPL arena. You can see that Khan, as we did mention, is going to be starting here instead of Gimgoon for this first game. Of course, that can change as the tournament does move along.
And we'll see what their approach in game number 1 is going to be. And this is best of 1. So best of 1s get a little bit tricky when it comes to how are you going to try to approach the meta as well as your particular opponent. Because obviously I would actually expect that the LPL might have an edge in the best of 1s before we head to the best of 5 format.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there. I think they can really come out swinging and catch a lot of these defensive LCK teams off guard. I think that T1, though, might be a little bit, not immune, but a little bit better prepared for that kind of thing. They've been on so many international stages before that I think, as you mentioned before, I think it's FunPlus Phoenix's job to kind of come in here and be the underdogs and try to take over against T1, who, with their new lineup here, Cuzz in the jungle now, they got Canna, a rookie, up in the top lane. It's kind of funny because it's Khan versus Canna in the top lane for the first game. Canna mentioning Khan many times in interviews, as well as Effort, who is a guy who, used to be the youngest and the most new, the most green on the team, but actually he's really shaping up to be a big top performer in the support role. I know a lot of us voted for him as first or second in terms of all supports in the LCK, so definitely looking to see if he can hold down that support role this time around. Of course, other names you will recognize, Teddy and Faker, are going to be also rounding out this lineup.
And you can see Canna on the screen right now. He is going to have a bit of a hard job cut out for him here. This game number 1, trying to really find the right words to describe it. And this will be interesting to see how he is going to fare here today. But then also just T1 in general, because again, there's a lot of expectations on them coming into this tournament. If you saw how they performed in the second half of LCK Spring, as well as, again, in the finals versus Gen.G, so dominating. And it's only been a couple of weeks since that's happened. So we'll see what they're able to do. There is also the factor that there's the ping.
Yes.
That is manually set in place that I believe that we spoke about before. So
yeah,
I wonder what that's going to sort of influence.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know a lot of the guys, especially here in Korea, we're used to playing on 8 to 10 ping, right? It's kind of the baseline, the standard. Sometimes you'll feel like you're lagging if you hit 11. I know I'm not the only one on a desk with LS. But now we've set the ping to 30. So it's going to be 30 for everybody in the game on both sides. So we don't really have to worry about that, even though we are playing online. And it's definitely something to talk about. It will be a kind of new feeling when it does come into the game, even if it is a very minuscule one.
The interesting thing is I remember back when I used to live with Samsung White and Blue, when they were MVP, blue, white, red, and or MVP Ozone, etc. Sometimes they would play in tournaments that were online in China, and they would complain about 40 ping, saying, don't pick me this champion, or I won't play this champion in 40 ping, because there's things that you can't do. And so, interestingly enough, certain champions might be not selected on the basis that maybe they don't want to be out of their element with certain abilities. I know that Jayce and Ezreal, for instance, are two champions that can get influenced even by this minuscule amount, or at least in the eyes of some of the professional players historically.
Yeah, no doubt.
Was it Faker who complained about NA ping once?
Probably.
It might have
probably was him.
Yeah.
And we've made many jokes about that in the past here, even in Korea, where it's like it jumps up to 20 and the players are like, nope, no, we're not playing on this. Not happening. Absolutely not. But we are getting into the pick ban here, guys. FPX on blue, T1 on red for this best of one.
Something's never changed, Valdez. T1 opening with Elise, FPX having banned away Set, and now Trundle getting banned away. So Graves, okay, there it goes. All right, this is going very quick. Not really wasting any time. And so the meta, now this is going to be really defining, not just for this tournament, but also for the LEC, for the LCS, LPL once it resumes, LCK once it resumes. This is going to be basically the tournament that can sort of set the competitive standard, perhaps, for what's going to be happening in maybe scrims over the next couple of weeks before all the splits resume in summer 2020, as Aphelios is going to be picked here B1 by FPX. Now, T1 can respond in traditional fashion to punishing Aphelios with just long-range control.
Syndra.
Syndra or
Syndra flex.
Lots of long-range mages are pretty good. Now, Kalista's being hovered. She is still able to be flexed.
Yeah, definitely can be flexed rather. And Syndra, definitely something we mentioned. We see a bit of Syndra jungle from time to time in solo queue. Not so much in pro play just yet, but it's not going to come in here, as Olaf is going to be the pick into the jungle.
So they have Kalista, Olaf so far. We don't know if the Kalista is going to go top lane yet or AD carry. And FPX now with the Kindred lock-in. Now, interestingly enough, Kindred can go top lane, not just jungle.
Okay.
So this is definitely an interesting pick here at this point in the draft, because it conceals whether or not it's top Kindred or if it would actually be jungle. If Aphelios wasn't locked in, I would say he can even go AD carry, because there are Kindreds on the Korean solo queue ladder as well as in the Chinese solo queue that will play Kindred in AD carry mid and top. So would be interesting to get that here on game one opening, as Jayce has been selected for T1. Lots of early aggression and lane control coming out of them.
No, it's just not necessarily something we were expecting from an LCK team. We were leaning more towards the LPL teams to bring in the flair, you know, the fire, especially into the early game. You know, Tian, a very famous Lee Sin player, is going to potentially not play that just yet. Wukong is going to be banned, so this is definitely something that we see a lot in solo queue. It has been changed and buffed a bunch, and they will respect that up against FPX.
And Thresh and Taric were both banned away, so they're acknowledging that the Kalista is likely going to be bottom. And now Braum is being hovered. And now it's swapped back over to Gragas. Now, Gragas is very good against Kindred, because you can knock everyone out of the Kindred ultimate. And so, in a vacuum, I suppose that is an answer. Olaf, I suppose, could be flex top lane. They have that going on. This is a very interesting game number one draft here, Valdez. Is FPX trying to decide on what their support is going to be. And it might not even be a support. It could be a dual flex, given that it is Doinb. So the Nautilus could go mid. Karma can still go bottom.
Doinb can pretty much play anything. When you were saying top Kindred, I'm like, hey, why not Doinb on Kindred mid? You know, who knows? Definitely could happen.
Ooh. Well, that's probably going to signal that Karma will be in mid if that Renekton is locked in. No, hovered and switched over to Vladimir. It's been a very long time since we've seen him. And what is T1's final pick going to be? Because as it currently stands, it looks like they're missing a mid laner. Corki is being hovered right now.
Yeah. Another one of these mid picks that has rose in priority in recent times. Once again, he is back as a safe, scaling, mostly AP damage, kind of AD carry style, though, in the way that he does play. Going into the mid lane, of course, Faker, no stranger to the Corki, and it does look like it will be the Karma in the mid lane to go up against that Corki. And
it seems now we're going to wait till the 20-second mark just to make sure there's no more swap shenanigans that are going on anywhere. And it does look like, okay, so Corki will be in mid against the Karma. You have Jayce against Vladimir up in top lane. So the onus is going to be on Canna to try to make something happen. And interestingly enough, it's looking like it's going to be the LCK that have the responsibility on them coming into game number 1 to try to get the ball rolling in the mid stages of the game to convert into something meaningful. They do still have some late game scaling on their side with the Corki. The fact that Kalista actually has a lot of potency against a lot of the champions on the side of FPX, but that Kindred, the Vladimir, and the Aphelios is really, really scary.
Yeah, I mean, if you sit in the game for about 200 years, they're going to be really a big composition, and as you were mentioning, they're going to kind of overcome the T1 comp in the very late stages of the game. So definitely interesting. Guys, we're going to jump into game number 1 right now. Here we go, right onto the Rift. No whitings, no gyos, nothing like that just yet. Hopefully in future seasons and tournaments we can get back all that fun stuff. But for now, we will be playing here on this Rift. As it's interesting that Canna, you know, a guy that has mentioned Khan many times in interviews as a top laner that he's looked up to, a guy that he's learned a lot from. He's going to go ahead and pick the Jayce in game 1 straight up against Khan, who has been known for his Jayce play in the past. And we do have Nuggery in the tournament as well. Dom 1's top laner, very famous for his Vladimir, but the Vladimir gets picked much earlier than we will be seeing him play. He will be playing in the next game, in fact, against Top Esports.
And I'm really excited to actually see this Kindred pick here and what FPX can manage to do with it. I think that she is extremely undervalued for such a long time now because her ultimate is so game-breaking against some team compositions. And just the fact that even though she's not designed to really go off in the early stages or the mid-game, if she does, she just takes over the entire game.
Yeah.
And so it's a very interesting kind of jungler. So T1 now, just going to be having a pretty standard opening here. Cuzz is just going to full clear his red side jungle. Tian opened up with a blue steal. And taking a look at the runes, everything is pretty standard across the board.
Yeah, don't really notice anything too out of the ordinary when we do take a look at the runes. Of course, the Unsealed Spellbook Karma was kind of highlighted earlier on. Tons of utility, about as much as you can get in one champion package. As we do have to talk about the jungle early game. There was a bit of an invade. The scan from the red trinket did miss the one ward from T1, but it didn't catch the invade. It only saw Doinb moving forward. And so Cuzz is not going to know. I do not believe that this is happening. He's going to see the blue buff being taken. He should know because of the delay in the jungle path from Tian, but it's kind of too little too late at this point just to know it, as he's not going to be able to efficiently respond other than going for wolves and clearing the rest of his jungle, so he will be 3-buffed by Tian on the side of FPX.
Yeah, and Olaf's going to transition this into picking up the right side Scuttle Crab as soon as it spawns. Faker has control over mid lane, and it must be nice. Tian does roll like a god, the Kindred mark on the left side, although he's not pathing towards it right away.
Yeah, and he's going to be seen too, so...
Yeah, ends up getting spotted out and didn't path towards it, and you can see Doinb had a lane reset, so even though Canna had priority up in top lane, Tian likely would have been able to actually sneak that mark. And so that's going to be a bit unfortunate for him. Canna very low on mana right now up here in top lane. Does still have 2 corrupting charges left. We'll see if he actually would just elect to cheater recall on this next wave, because it's going to be really hard for him to achieve anything here against this Vladimir on this wave or the follow-up wave. Canna's just sitting pretty.
Yeah, he's sitting back. He's putting on immense pressure. They were kind of giving the top side of the map over to Cuzz, even though he didn't take it. He's still going to be able to take that scuttle and have a lot of vision control. So kind of doing well up in the top side, but you do have to point out that Khan is keeping up in the CS difference up in the top side and is feeling pretty okay himself. All the junglers just farming everything out for now, and it will be a little bit of a slower early game for now.
What we have to pay attention to is T1 needs to get early dragons. They have to convert it into something meaningful. First one of the game is going to be Ocean Drake. If you're a T1 fan, you want Cloud to come up second. That way you know 100% you'll at least get a meaningful soul. And Tian making his way up to top lane, just going to clear out the ward. Kind of difficult to get anything going with Vladimir when he's not 6 yet. As Doinb is going to teleport right back into mid lane, clear out the wave, and now he'll have temporary control as Faker backs up. He'll recall with teleport, and T1, they are going to get the first dragon of the game. We'll see if they initiate a lane swap off of this right away. It would be a bit early, but the timing would line up for it.
I don't see it.
No, it's going to be instant teleport back top.
Yeah, the teleport there. And you were talking about early Jakes for T1. They see Tian up in the top side. They say, well, we can just push in bot and rotate over to the dragon, take a very easy Ocean. And with the Cloud coming up second, that means we will not have Cloud Soul. So should be a very heavily contested either Infernal or Mountain Soul in this game. Both of them would have to see them being pretty important, but I think Infernal is really going to be insane for both of these teams if one of them can pick them up. And could definitely push T1's weaker, very late game into a position where they do have the power to, you know, come over the top on FPX's composition. But it will come down to the gameplay as another mark is down on the bottom side here. You can see already Tian is trying to make his way up towards that. See if he can lock it down.
And Cuzz getting a lot of HP and mana back from that honey fruit. Scuttle Crab getting a little hungry himself.
Little snack.
Yeah.
And you can see Faker having a little bit of trouble. That hook was not going to hit him. It hit the little nub of the wall that comes out, but he still flashes away Cuzz. And at the same time, Tian is going to pick up the mark and level 6. And so T1 is just going to have to say, okay, you win this round. We'll back off. But the extra pushing out of mid lane gave a little bit of priority over to Doinb to be able to come down there and help out, as well as Crisp getting there in the fight a little bit ahead of effort. So props to FPX for being pretty proactive about getting that mark for their Kindred.
And Canna is having a really hard time right now up here in top lane. The Vladimir gets so much value out of the Seeker's Arm Guard, not just against the Jayce, but also against the Olaf in an event that he would never end up trying to be ganked. But Canna's just doing such a better job than Canna already in this game. He's winning in CS as Vladimir against Jayce, and Jayce matchups are generally measured by how close you can stay to Jayce, not by if you can actually beat him or not. So things are not looking very good for T1 on the top side of the map, as Canna, all he's been doing is pushing. He hasn't even managed to get a turret plate. Nothing meaningful has been able to be converted out of it. And now, interestingly enough, the one time something might happen is because Khan was allowed to push back. So we'll see if anything comes from this. Canna does have executioners now, so is able to hurt Vladimir, sustain a little bit inside of the lane, but Tian actually just going to start up the Rift Herald, it seems like.
Yeah, and an axe was thrown. It did look like T1 kind of have an idea that this is going on, but they don't really want to contest it just yet, especially because, you know, when you pick a lane bully and you can't bully lane, it's not a great feeling. As we saw Canna thinking about rotating down. He's still here. He's got to be really careful. But, well, looks like he's just going to be okay. As Tian is going to be able to back away. And we will return to farming. But that is a very big pickup very early on in the game. I mean, this is a 9-minute Rift Herald, 850. He's going to be able to get some plates easily from this. It's just going to be up to him on which lane he wants to snowball.
Well, we're almost at 10 minutes here in the game, Valdez. The score is still 0-0, so
yeah,
it's good to be back.
Welcome back, guys. Oh, man.
They don't call it literally can't kill for nothing.
Yeah. I mean, at least I think the next game is going to have a little bit more action, right? Domon up against Top Esports.
That's what you think.
You would imagine. Hopefully. Oh, no. Oh, man. Valdez doesn't know. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of rough. You pick Karma versus Corki with the Manamune, then call. It's like, okay, well, we can just sit back and, yeah. That's about it.
And at this point, I mean, in the game, Corki is completely fine to just keep scaling up and doing his thing, but likewise, so is Kindred, so is Vladimir. So right now, this second Cloud Dragon is super important for T1 to get, because then the third Drake is going to be the one that you know. Oh, hold on.
They're collapsing on Tian. He's going to be forced to blow that ultimate. The casket's not good to knock him out. And the huge shield and heal is going to be enough to get him to safety. That looked like an unsealed spellbook heal coming out from Doinb, full health, and now the return. But in goes Teddy and his support, able to pick up the first blood in the back line. But Doinb and the rest of FPX on the chase. Did they go too deep is the real question here. As Teddy is going to be locked down. Effort will go down here. Faker over the wall, trying to help him out. But there's that turret, and now the visual is going to come out. That's a lot of damage, but no lockdown. And it looks like the mobility of Kalista and the Corki will be able to get them out of dodge, but that's a 2-for-1 in kills going the way of FPX.
And so FPX, they come out ahead in kills, but the gold score still at the top is pretty much even. And what this also does is it buys a lot of time, but because of the way that the deaths occur, T1, Olaf is going to get to the Cloud Dragon. We take a look at the package landing right on top of Kindred. And the Gragas, unfortunately for effort, the trees end up saving the Kindred. Just getting pressed against the wall there. Crisp and LWX very quick to collapse. Teddy and effort go on to Tian, end up getting that kill there. You can see now in live.
Yeah.
It looks like
fighting for the Cloud Drake, and it is going to go the way of Cuzz this time around, but what will be the damage? FPX don't want to go down without a fight here, as Effort is insanely tanky. He doesn't seem to die, and now it's a 4-on-3, as FPX a little bit too desperate to pick up the kills. And it looks like T1 will be able to lock down 3 on the back of this. You can see Doinb desperately trying to pick up that kill onto Effort, but it's not going to happen. Now 3-0 is Teddy on the Kalista.
And Teddy this is not a cuddly teddy bear, I'll tell you that much here in this game. 3-0 on the Kalista. And it's really problematic because Kalista and Corki are the two champions you need to worry about most. The Jayce you can pretty much ignore in the later stages, especially because he really failed to do anything in the early stages of the game. But that was a very bizarre decision by FPX. After the dragon went down, okay, cut your losses.
Oh, they really want to pick up this lockdown, or the shutdown rather, and they're going to hand it over to Aphelios. That was really tricky. We saw that Chris was really far away. He didn't have flash, and so Teddy was like, oh, I feel safe. But the heal coming out of LWX, as well as that delayed route from the tricky switch on the guns, means that they pick up that kill, and now with the Rift Herald, but he would be able to pick up some extra money here in the mid lane as they pick up, it looks like 3 plates as Chris was looking to even dive the turret at the same time. And the action seems to have really blown up now here after 10 minutes.
Yeah, and we're finally getting some action. Canna also able to get some plates up here in top lane. Tian coming up here, gonna try to maybe make a play happen, but Canna gonna be really quick to try to get out of this. Still has the flash available. He should never die.
Yeah, with a Hex Drinker is gonna get him low. He flashes away. Now Tian delayed a little bit. He hit the ward twice on his way up. I think he could have just gone straight up and maybe had a better chance, but either way, let's take a look at the replay.
This is what's so bizarre. So the Cloud Dragon goes down and they funnel into this narrow corridor, and they know about Faker to the north. Aphelios wasn't here, and it was just a buffet for T1. That's really all that there is to say at the very end of this. Now, immediately after this, Kalista does go down in the bot lane, but this was such a nice victory for T1, and it is Infernal Soul this game, so arguably the best dragon that they could get, given that FPX has a lot of sustained damage in their team composition. Karma can really keep the fights going. Kindred flourishes in sustained fights. Aphelios and Nautilus likewise. So a Mountain Soul, while the resistances are nice, doesn't outright just end the game the way that it can against certain team compositions. So T1 rolling really well with that Infernal. Corki making his way to the Trinity Force. But we got 2 minutes at least until the action continues to unfold. Karma continuing on the full support utility item path as Ardent Sensor picked up. Massive for Kindred and Aphelios.
Yeah, it's essentially like you got one ranged support, kind of a mage support in the mid lane that can do a bit of damage, but it's mostly there to support your 280 carries, and you get the Vlad with the shields, and then you got that engaged tanky support in the bottom side. So that is the way that FPX's team composition does round itself up, as Cuzz heavily prioritizing that Rift Herald. Actually wants to take down this mid-tier 1, but at the same time FPX will be looking to trade the turret down to the bottom side as a little bit of a skirmish here. Tian pretty angry after the way this early game has gone, and he's looking to take names, although Cuzz, he's not ready to go for the fight. And see, they're still looking to push here. They want to rotate into the mid lane after getting that turret in the bottom side. And this is what we all love about the LPL teams. They love to be proactive and look for plays. They're not going to sit back and make the same play. They want to get as much value as possible. And here we go. They get the turret, but having gone too deep as Chris is going to go down. The Kindred ultimate is too late. And now he's out of an ultimate for a good 120 seconds. That's a long cooldown on that Kindred ult.
Yeah.
So, you know, they get the turret, but maybe biting off a little bit more than they could chew.
And so all of this for the mid-tier 1 turret effort, used the cast to open this up, and Chris just going a little bit too reckless. He's done this twice now. And Kindred ult a little bit too late. As you did point out, it wasn't too late to where I would just say it's the ping, you know? It's not one of those things. Yeah, I can't really throw him a bone there, I'll tell you that.
No. Yeah, he had a good, let's say 700 MS to get out of that one. the extra 20 didn't really affect his play. As we're going to be looking to make a play around the Infernal Drake now. Very early these Drakes were taken now. We talked about this T1 really prioritizing this, and so far it's been 2 for 0. Tian not really able to land the smite there in the second fight over the Cloud Drake. So you can see T1 going to let them leash here and look for an engage and just poke on the top side as, okay, it's going to be denied by the Valkyrie, and that's a lot of damage.
Jayce Shock Blast whiffs.
Yeah, it does, but they should be able to lock down this one. The smite is not going to come in just yet. Khan in the front, but now he is low. As T1, they don't necessarily have to fight this, and so they say, we're just going to back away. We got the Infernal Drake, now we're on Drake's Soul in 5 minutes. You know, good for you. You weren't able to really take much from us.
And this is the really scary thing, is that typically 2.5 items, it's online by 23 minutes, but not quite 3. Hold on.
Okay, they're not backing down. They say, T1, you dare fight us in the mid lane. We are going to chop you down like an old oak of a team that you are. As a lot of poke is coming out now in the mid lane, they clear the wave, and so it is going to delay the push as Faker is pushing the bottom side. So T1 able to try to stand back up after losing Canna on the top side.
So typically, third items will generally be completed around the 27-ish minute mark, and that's not going to be online by the time the Infernal Soul is going to be up. And that's really the item breakpoint that you're looking for on Vladimir and Aphelios in this game. I mean, Kindred will have 2 items. Karma is still going to be there bolstering. I mean, we take a look at this replay, and it is just very bizarre decision by T1. You don't really know what they were thinking, because you have Faker down in the bottom just pushing the wave, and there's no real universe where FPX is able to raise that mid-tier 2, and it's not the end of the world. Even if they could, it's 500 gold.
Yeah.
And the question that you ask yourselves is, are we going to lose this game if this turret dies here? The answer is no. So, giving a little bit more over to FPX, but the real scary thing for them is that their champions' base scalings as well as items is not going to be online yet by that Infernal Soul fight, and T1 are not only going to have the edge at it, they're going to potentially just be able to win the game at that fight.
Yeah. I mean, you take a look at their carries already. Just kind of ignore Canna in the top lane for one moment. So you got Faker 2-0 and 3 with 2.5 items, and it's not just regular 2 items. It's Trinity Force and Muramana completed with the Zeal, as well as a 3-1 Kalista, who is struggling to get that second item, actually. Not quite as much farm as Faker just yet. Faker really the big boss of DPS on the side of T1. And I think it's really going to come down to key ultimates from Tian and Khan, but at the same time, you gotta look to LWX, who's 3-0, to try to somehow pull out the mechanics and, you know, be the underdogs in the team fight, but still win with the Aphelios. They're gonna have a lot of their money on that one player, and we'll have to see if he can pull it off.
Yeah. And it looks like Doinb is gonna be going for third item Death Cap. And that will mean that maybe he can get a second needlessly large rod prior to the Infernal Dragon fight. See if he can end up doing that. Khan.
Effort's coming as well. He's almost here. The cast is going to come down, but a good flash by Khan. That was close. If he did not flash that one, I think he would maybe not go directly into the arms of Canna, but Canna could have closed the distance with his own flash and finished off the kill.
The other thing that is going on here for Khan is that he's got a little bit of Build-A-Bear workshop going on here. He's got the Seeker's Arm Guard, Aether Wisp picked up, he has the Proto Belt, but this means that he won't have a second core item, I believe, by the time Infernal Soul does end up spawning, so this is a little bit scary. Kindred should be able to recall into the Black Cleaver, as Tian has been sitting on those items for a very long time. And all of the pressure is going to be on LWX in this last team fight because Faker is ginormous.
He might pick up his third item here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be pretty insane.
He's got an okay amount of CS right now. 244 at 2150. I'm not quite impressed, you know. I'm thinking, why not 245?
Yeah.
But,
you know,
he does have the third item.
And there it is, Rapid Fire Canna. He's going to be just chunking people down. And this is the worry, especially for an 80 carry like Aphelios. If he doesn't have the right guns, he can be pretty low range and just get poked out by champions like a Corki. So you don't, okay, we're not poking, we're just going straight into the backline, and LWX just disappears as Tian is going to be late on the ultimate once again. The burst coming in now from the Jayce is going to be enough, and this is going to be an easy cleanup for T1. As Cuzz, though, is going to have to use that heal to get out of dodge here. Khan running straight into it, and Faker coming back in with the teleport. should be able to take out Khan here as he is under that turret, but he does not have the pool any longer. It's Faker. They're going a little bit too deep after getting the win on that fight there, but still the jungler of FPX is down.
Now, fortunately for them, no one else on the side of FPX has teleport. LWX does not have it, so T1 are still going to be able to get the Infernal Soul, but that was a little bit reckless. Right at the very end there. They're going to pick up this Infernal Soul. Gave Olaf about half a longsword too, so nice little gold value, but I feel like the game now is probably over, Valdez. That Infernal Soul plus their gold lead, plus the fact that their champions are still just so much stronger, they're going to be able to use this to convert into a Baron really easily now. And even the support Gragas becomes a bit of a menace now with just his basic combo. So we take a look at how this all transpires, and Faker just saw lethal on Aphelios and blew him completely up as Canna tried to go in for the assassination. Effort very clean on the follow-up right there. Khan very slow to arrive to the fight. He got knocked up. He went to Pound Town. And then T1 did just really force the issue a little bit too much, though.
Yeah.
And they end up paying a bit of a price for it.
Yeah, it looks like the shutdown went over to Vladimir, who is 2-1. So, you know, you're only 2 or so mistakes away from, you know, again, they have Infernal Soul. It is going to be very difficult to throw this game from this position, but still got to be careful about making plays like that. And you can see they're just setting up for the Baron right now, just trying to use that power that they do have. I mean, Faker he's like 3 champions in 1 right now as, okay, that was,
He's just trying to give him a drink. Leave him
hey,
alone.
You probably need this more than I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, if it went the opposite way, I'm sure that Faker could have 2-shot him. So, got to be careful. And this Kindred pick so far, I have to say, it hasn't been very effective. I mean, it is not getting the required ultimates to save your teammates against the burst that T1's composition does have. And that's the hard part about it. The burst that does come in so fast it's pretty hard to respond to on time. As you can see, Faker just going to say, okay, I took that last team fight into my own hands. I guess I'll take this Baron into my own hands. And with Kalista not on the Baron, they're going to say, okay, probably not doing it. But now Teddy is going to rotate over to this objective. When will FPX realize? Now they will, but is it too late? Now Teddy's on the Baron. Yeah. And it's too little, too late. Olaf gonna smite that one down as T1 will pick up the Baron at 25-45.
And now, basically what FPX need to do is, well, no, not escape from the game. That's the opposite of what you want to do. That's not where the surrender button is.
Checking their video settings as to why, you know, it's like, oh, what's going on?
Basically, they need to avoid a team fight until Kindred recalls, gets Black Cleaver, and Karma gets Death Cap.
Okay, they're just going to go for the Olaf here. Again, this is a tank Olaf. It's pretty much pure tank as well, so.
Teddy's just, I mean, he's doing stuff up there.
And look at what they're doing. I mean, they have the poke to deny all these backs. And so as long as they have vision and they don't overcommit here, they can delay a lot of backs on the side. But Kalista is just going to join up with her team. Not going to push it too far, although I feel like she may have been able to. As Ingo's Faker once again, but there's the leash from the Karma. Ingo's Aphelios. They're considering getting in there, and now Faker is going to go down, but he does trade. As, again, this reckless behavior. Faker is coming in today. He really wants to make it, you know, extremely sure to everybody that he is the one that's going to be making the plays. As Khan wants to try to rival that here, as he is going to have to flash away. But do they have the damage to follow it up here? Finally, the Kindred ultimate is going to come in on time, but there it is. The huge burst damage comes out from Edward, and that's going to be the cast. The menace from the support, as you mentioned, is going to have the damage as T1 will look to push in and end this game.
And T1 are certainly going to be able to do so, I believe, as Aphelios is coming up, but I don't think that he can do a lot right now. I'll tell you that much.
No, he's He's a little bit small this time around. Not really able to do much. He's going to poke down Cuzz. Doesn't even get the kill. Canna going to come in there and take names, as Doinb not even going to be able to save his life. Will they? Look at how fast Baker is. He's going to go in, pick up the kill, and Baker will get out alive. Gragas is going to give his life, and that's going to be the end of the game. GG, as T1 will pick up the first game here of the mid-season cup. As FPX did put on a pretty nice show, especially in the early game. I liked how proactive they were. But T1 is making it clear that the predictions that a lot of the casters did make is probably what is going to happen. T1 looked to be the favorite coming out of this group by far.
Yeah, I mean, game number 1, dominating fashion by T1. And FPX just really left sort of floundering about, and they had such a good and stable early game for the most part. I mean, Tian did whiff on the first mark capture opportunity, but then picked up the second one. They did lose the Cloud Dragon and the Ocean, but that was to be expected with the way that the lane setups were. Eventually, Kindred and co should be able to start fighting for the third Dragon forward. Didn't get to that point. FPX made a few reckless decisions, and some of the kills that they end up getting were mostly at the mistakes of T1, not through FPX really getting them on their own accord.
Yeah.
And so that has to say something as well.
Yeah, T1 was kind of like, okay, we're ahead. We have this unbelievably fed Corki. We're just going to run it straight into you with the package, and he did that multiple times, not even once. Even at the end of the game there, straight into the fountain, looking to take names, and that's up against the 2019 world champ. I understand it's not exactly the same players, but at the end of the day, still is a very strong team from the LPL region, and yeah, what a fiery game to start off this tournament here, LS.
I mean, yeah, this was a bit unexpected. And the way that T1 came out the gate drafting and just their approach to the game. But maybe that is going to really set the groundwork for the remainder of the tournament, because T1 was the team that I was expecting to be the most reserved out of all of the LCK teams, with Damwon and DRX being on more of the aggressive side.
Yeah. And we will be seeing that up next, by the way. Down up against Top Esports is going to be the second match of the 6 that we do have today. But before we do get into that, we're going to take a look at some of the highlights here and just figure out exactly how T1 did get ahead and what FPX were trying to do in this game.
And so this was the initial skirmish where FPX, they collapse first. Teddy goes over the wall, throws his Pikachu onto the Kindred, ends up getting a kill there, but then effort does go down there shortly thereafter. Chris landing a hook onto Teddy as well, but just barely able to escape. This is where FPX was really just confused, I think, with their decision. They knew that Faker was collapsing from the top, and LWX wasn't here yet, so they just funneled in after losing the Cloud Drake, and it's not the end of the world to lose the second Dragon of the game. In fact, it was to be expected with the way that everything was transpiring. And this was another one where Chris just really having a pretty off game, by the way, with the Nautilus. Yeah. A lot of his hook attempts and engages were just very, very off. This was Faker's kamikaze onto Aphelios. And, I mean, the game pretty much ended right there because this converted into the Infernal Soul capture.
Yeah, and we were talking about that from minute 1 of the game, that could potentially happen if T1 start to build up those Drakes and get ahead. And you can see they didn't have to stay. They didn't have to go in there and dive the turret that long, but it ended up being the Infernal Soul capture anyway. As you can see, Khan here desperately, he's like, okay, I'm level 15, you know, maybe I can get something going here, but I love the way that T1 just played front to back in a lot of these fights. Once the engage kind of failed from FPX, they immediately turned it around with big engages from Effort and even Teddy, you know, with the Fade's call, able to help his support get into the back line, and it all kind of went into the Grand Canyon there on the goal difference over time as we dipped very deep down towards the end. Funnily enough, Faker not doing the most damage in this one. It was actually Canna up in the top side. Lots of trade damage, of course, in the lane, attributing to that. But 27 minutes, just about 28. 4 Drakes, 1 Baron, and T1 shut down FPX here in the first game and really set the tone for what it's going to be. You were talking about the way they were playing, how aggressively they were playing and drafting, but also the fact that they just kind of outclassed FPX in that first game, kind of setting the tone in everybody's minds to say, oh, okay, T1's the favorite in this group for sure. And again, we'll have to see the other 2 teams in the group. I don't want to write them off just yet, but definitely a very big performance to start off with for T1 here.
Absolutely. And we'll see what else the LCK teams are going to have in store. I was excited to see the Kindred right out the gate.
Yeah.
That was very fun. And I hope that we continue to see more champion diversity. Because honestly, the meta has been so stale. Ivern is actually fantastic right now, unironically.
He's really good.
With some of the buffs that he has received, as well as the indirect buffs in regards to things that have happened around him, with meta champions, as well as the jungle changes and whatnot. Ivern's in a very good place right now. And I don't know if we'll actually see him out of the LPL or the LCK in this tournament, but it doesn't change the fact that he is.
Yeah, maybe we need a G2 over here to see some Ivern, but unfortunately that's not going to happen in this tournament. The player of the game is going to be Teddy on the Kalista here, as he did go 3-2 and 9. Myself, I think I would have voted for Faker in this one, but it was mostly just a team performance on the side of T1 that got the job done. As you can see, Teddy, very high CS per minute, and was always present. I feel like the engage capabilities were highlighted more so than just the straight-up damage by Teddy on the Kalista in this game.
Yep. And we take a look at this team fight right here. So Crisp initiates the hook onto Effort, and Teddy just going back in. I mean, he had it handed it to him on a silver platter.
If not Faker, I think even Effort was a fantastic pick for this game. I mean, he had multiple great engages and baits as well on the support. Gragas.
I ended up giving Effort my POG vote.
Yeah, well, we have what's the opposite of a sinner?